From Annapolis to Baltimore City, Fox 45 News is following two big stories when it comes to public safety.
In Baltimore, Fox 45's Mackenzie Frost demanding answers about the Safe Streets program, working to find out who your taxpayer dollars are going to.
Again, these aren't our employees, Mackenzie.
But your city does redact the names.
Don't interrupt me. I didn't interrupt you.
In Annapolis, the Senate passes a bill tackling juvenile justice in a late-night session.
The bill passed with bipartisan support, although Republicans say they're not completely satisfied.
This is a step, but it's certainly not a leap. We have a lot more work to do when it comes to public safety.
Thank you for joining us. I'm Mary Bubala.
And I'm Kai Jackson. Fox 45's Keith Daniels joins us live from Annapolis with more on tonight's vote. Keith?
Well, Kai and Mary, the proposed juvenile crime bill in the Senate gets another green light in a series of steps before making its way finally to Governor Wes Moore's desk. And tonight, that step forward comes with an affirmative vote. Tonight in Annapolis, one step closer to a bill becoming law.
Senate Bill 744 is on third reading for final passage.
The Maryland State Senate taking up the vote Monday on its version of the new juvenile crime bill. The proposed legislation is expected to deal with gaps in the juvenile justice system while providing accountability and needed services for juvenile offenders. After weeks of debate over the legislation moving in the Senate chamber, the vote.
Has everyone recorded their vote?
The Senate voting in favor of the bill, 43-2.
It's a big step in the right direction. Now we conference with the House, and we'll move forward from there. We'll start our work this week. And there are some discrepancies between the House and the Senate. We'll reconcile those, and I'm confident we'll move forward with a good product.
Senators Jill Carter, the Democrat from Baltimore City, and Charles Sitnor III, the Democrat from Baltimore County, the only two opposing the bill. Carter left the chamber without talking with reporters. But at issue for Sitnor, the bill's language regarding incarceration for juveniles between the ages of 10 and 12 who steal cars.
What I heard the House do in terms of diverting for the first offense and then providing jurisdiction, to me that makes sense. Hopefully that can be brought into the Senate version.
Senate's version differs slightly from the House version. Both versions expand the jurisdiction of the Department of Juvenile Services, expanding it to include children between 10 and 12 years old. But one of the biggest differences between the House and Senate versions of the legislation is how to deal with those same-aged offenders who steal cars. The Senate's version calls for a child in need of supervision, or SINS petition, which kickstarts a court-ordered programming process for those involved. However, in the House version, those offenders on their first offense are automatically taken to a diversionary program instead of going through DJS. Both sides have said the differences will be worked out.
It's a difference between the two bills, but it's nothing that's insurmountable. So we'll be able to get through it, but it's a difference.
Well, the Senate votes and passes its version tonight, as the House did last week. They'll work out some simple language, they say, then both chambers will vote on the final version, which they say could happen, quote, soon. We're live now in Annapolis. Keith Daniels, Fox 45 News.
Keith, thank you. And as Keith mentioned, a key part of the Senate's version of that bill are child in need of services petitions. Police are supposed to fill out a SINS petition when they arrest a juvenile. They're aimed at providing services to young offenders rather than charges. Howard County State's Attorney Rich Gibson says those petitions don't work.
That tool in its current structure is ineffective at addressing juvenile crime, principally because it is not mandatory or binding upon the participant. That child who, in the current SINS structure, can simply choose to not participate, and that is the end of it. That does not work when you're looking at a population that's engaging in criminal behavior.
While he voted in favor of the bill tonight, Senate Minority Leader Stephen Hershey says he doesn't think this bill goes far enough. He points to several other public safety bills still in committee, saying the General Assembly needs to take up those as well.
There are a lot of public safety bills that are still held up in committee. And I think it's important that we recognize that we still need to do something if we're going to honor our commitment to the citizens of Maryland and make this a safer state.
Senator Hershey pointing to the Violent Firearms Offender Act. Republicans, including former Governor Larry Hogan, have pushed for this bill for several years in a row. It would crack down on anyone charged in some gun crimes and put stricter penalties on repeat offenders. That bill, though, hasn't had a hearing since January. He also brought up the Pava Marie LePere Act, which would limit early release from prison for violent convicted sex offenders. Now, that bill is still in committee. And the Department of Juvenile Services Transparency Act also still in committee. It would require DJS to report to the General Assembly certain information regarding the number of shootings by and of juveniles under the department's supervision.
If you feel your juvenile crime concerns aren't being heard, you can reach out to your lawmakers. House Speaker Adrian Jones and Senate President Bill Ferguson are two of the most powerful voices in Annapolis. Their phone numbers and email addresses are on your screen. As lawmakers meet to pass a Senate crime bill, the Baltimore police announced the arrest of two teens for armed robbery. Around 11 o'clock Saturday, officers responded to a business on Bel Air Road. The caller said that he was robbed at night point and assaulted by two suspects. Well, now police know that a 15-year-old and 17-year-old have been arrested for that attack. Fox 45 will be in Annapolis following the youth crime bills every step of the way. For our full coverage, head to foxbaltimore.com.
Do the Safe Streets employees get cell phones provided by LifeBridge and Catholic Charities that the city pays for?
Well, we have contracts with those companies and those service providers. Any discussion about whether what happens and who pays for those things are things that we can answer in addition with our partners.
The answer is yes.
Well, a fiery back and forth today over unanswered questions surrounding the mayor's Office of Neighborhood Safety and Engagement and the people who work for Safe Streets. Tonight, Fox 45's Mackenzie Frost continues her years-long investigation into the program and demands answers from Mayor Scott ahead of a key hearing at City Hall.
Mayor Brandon Scott is now pointing to the nonprofits operating the Safe Streets locations, saying it's their policy that's keeping some of this information from the public.
The people who work at the 10 different Safe Street sites across Baltimore remain a secret to the city at large. Those employees are screened in coordination with the Mayor's Office of Neighborhood Safety and Engagement, LifeBridge Health, or Catholic Charities, which are the nonprofits running the sites, Baltimore Police, and even members of the community. Despite playing a key role in Baltimore's crime-fighting strategy, these violence interrupters are not city employees, but their salaries come from the millions of tax dollars the nonprofits get from City Hall. Thursday, the City Council will dig into the hiring practices of these employees during an oversight hearing with Monzi. But Monday, we pressed Mayor Brandon Scott on why his administration is keeping the names of the employees so quiet.
Do the Safe Streets employees get cell phones provided by LifeBridge and Catholic Charities that the city pays for?
Well, we have contracts with those companies and those service providers. Any discussion about whether what happens and who pays for those things are things that we can answer in addition with our partners.
The answer is yes. If the people in the community know who the Safe Streets workers are, why won't the city tell the public who the names of the employees are?
Again, these aren't our employees, Mackenzie.
But your city does redact the names.
Don't interrupt me. I didn't interrupt you. Don't interrupt me. We're not doing that today. Again, we cannot just willingly give out what is called HR information, people's employees information of folks who do not work for the city of Baltimore. I don't know why you can't comprehend that. We are not going to violate any rules and regulations. If we want to work with, if our partners want to share that information, they can share that information.
The mayor says it's an HR policy from LifeBridge and Catholic Charities to keep the names secret. But again, that's a different response than what we've gotten in years past. In September 2020, Fox 45 News submitting a public records request with the mayor's office looking for the names of these employees. The response from the city's law department indicates City Hall did not have the names. Fast forward to January 2023, another records request met with redactions. This time, the law department citing this section of Maryland code, not really explaining why the names could not be released. The questions about who the Safe Streets workers are come at a time when the program overall has an approximate 38% vacancy rate. Meanwhile, the Bel Air Edison Safe Streets site remains inactive. It was shuttered after the FBI showed up in October executing a search warrant. Search warrants also executed at the homes of some Safe Streets employees. So far, no details released from the federal government, but sources close to the probe indicate the investigation could be connected to gang affiliations. Now, staff shortages plague the program. According to data obtained by Fox 45 News, 6 of the 7 budgeted positions at Bel Air Edison remain vacant. Across all 6 of the LifeBridge managed sites, 19 open Safe Street spots. That's 65% of the program's vacants. The program continues to operate in different zones despite the struggle to hire, all while City Hall adamantly keeps employee information secret from the public. You can read the statement from LifeBridge Health in this story on our website. In the meantime, we're still waiting on answers from Catholic Charities. In the newsroom, Mackenzie Frost, Fox 45 News.
And Fox 45 News has been tracking violent crime data in the Bel Air Edison community since the FBI conducted a search warrant on that site in October. According to data from Baltimore police, April 2023 started with 83 incidents. That jumped to 115 in July. In October, when the FBI showed up to the Safe Street site, there were 62 violent crimes reported. That number dropped to 49 in November when the site was inactive. Last month, there were 62 crimes reported. As the City Council prepares to hold this hearing Thursday, we will keep you updated as we learn more about these employees. For our full coverage on the Safe Streets program, head to foxbaltimore.com.
I'm Mary Bubala. Thank you for watching. Here's another video for you to watch. Also take some time to subscribe to our YouTube channel.